Yeah, in today's context, especially in the very special times that I think none of us had ever sort of encountered before, innovation becomes sort of like the lifeblood of how we cope. Not just with the managerial issues and the managerial issues or even the technological issues. A very very topical and very important arena where faculty has to sort of really uncork the importance of innovation in the way humanity manages itself, but of course in the context of how you are going to be influencing young minds in your classrooms to look at innovation and intellectual property in that context as one of the most critical and strategic sort of area of knowledge and competence and of course skills. And I'm delighted that AICTE and Shiv Nadar University is collaborating to do this fairly extensive faculty development program led by Vinita. Just a few things that I know Rupa would have done. Talk about Shiv Nadar University. As you know, SNU is nominated as one of the institutions of eminence. We are on our 10th year of our existence, and it is fairly incredible by way of the journey that that has gone on. Today, Shiv Nadar University is among the foremost universities in the country, sort of shepherding the cause of multidisciplinary education, where the whole philosophy is to be uh, 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 is to be sort of broad by way of uncorking or unraveling interdisciplinary thought and research, but at the same time being moored in disciplinary expertise. So currently, we have 5 schools in the university. Engineering school, the School of Natural Sciences, the School of Management and Entrepreneurship, the School of Humanities and Social Sciences, and of course we have a school on continuing education and professional development, which is a very interesting school that is at the crossroads of all the disciplinary, domains that work on professional development and adult education, right? So you're going to spend about 5 days on the intricate details of IP in the context of innovation, and it's a very, as I was saying, that India is not has traditionally not been a country which has been very strong on IP protection and the meaning and the strategic importance of why IP management can be at the hub of creation of new ideas and innovation. Because in this, of course, in management we talk a lot about how easy it is for IPs to get sort of hijacked and things get kind of replicated with with scant kind of respect or regard, even sort of a legal regard for protection of new ideas and intellectual property. But we are at the core of that, right? As a university, we're at the core of creation of intellectual property, and therefore, if we have a system in which the valuation and the returns on creation of intellectual property, if it is not protected, then it undermines, or it will undermine the creation of intellectual property or creation of innovation, which would be the saddest sort of derailer to all our developmental aspirations of education institutions and therefore the economy and the nation as a whole. So I think I'm delighted that we are all here to spend 5 days both at a very macro level, and also knowing Vinita, I know she would dive deep into all the domain-wise details of the broad area of IP, and I hope to see at the end of these 5 days of deliberations some real distance traveled by way of understanding of the domain, and also creating some sort of a shared blueprint of how we as faculty we are going to keep this important agenda as part of the mainstream curriculum, and also influence young minds in essentially setting up a discipline which is truly a discipline, and that sort of motivates creative thinking, motivates innovative thinking in solving not just business problems, but societal problems that we are seeing. We are in the middle of one, a major one. So once again, welcome to the program. I'm sure you all will have a terrific time, not just gathering knowledge, gaining knowledge, but also sharing among each other your own expertise and your own points of view to create some sort of a shared value that will be all very useful for your careers going forward. So thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to speak. I wish the FDP all success. Over to Vinita.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Vivek, sir. It was wonderful listening to your thought process, and specifically the last point I liked, that you feel it should be brought into the mainstream. That is really heartening, and that's what we are working towards. And the participants, I'm sure you have learned in a summary all about Nadar University from what Professor Banerjee had to say. Now, just to be on time, we have more speakers in this inaugural session. So I move on to our president, Kannan Gopal Karunakaran, who's with us, if I'm not wrong, since the last 3 years, sir.
I've been part
sir,
of
last
the
3 years.
I've been part of the foundation for 10 years and part of the university for about a year and a half.
Okay. That's really wonderful. So part of the foundation 10 years, and as a part of the university 3 years. So over to Colonel Gopal Karunakaran. Please share your thoughts about the session and guide the participants.
Thank you, Dr. Krishna. Can I request, if it's possible, if you minimize the PPT, and if the participants wish to put their videos on and their mics off, maybe in this COVID times, which we don't know how long it will last, we get to see people. There are people from all over India, so it may be a good idea if people do wish to put their videos on, keep the mics off. It may be a better idea. We just need the human contact of at least seeing people. So the choice is up to you. It's an absolute joy to be here, and in normal course, I'm guessing something that like this would be happening in the surroundings of our 300-acre beautiful campus, which we'd like to invite all the participants who are here from across India, whenever the opportunity comes to you, to come to the campus, which is absolutely lovely, with lots of sort of wildlife, birds, and animals. We were talking about a tortoise which has walked into the campus, so we'd love to have you here. So welcome to all the participants today. When Dr. Krishna asked me yesterday to speak a few words, I told her that with my military background, I have zero knowledge about this subject, but she insisted, so I read up a great deal between last night and today. And I thought of a little story to tell you. You know, when I was 5 or 6 years old, I used to hum songs. And I used to think that I created those songs, and they were my creation. When my 3-year-old younger sister started singing those songs, I protested to my mother. And I said, that's my song. So my mother said, well, it's not your toy, which is visible. It's just a song which you have sung. But I said, it's my song. But it didn't sit very well with me. And now when I read up about IPR and intellectual property and patents, I'm joyous that you can also protect the creation of the minds. and there is a whole movement, and it's part of the WTO, and it's wonderful to know that there's a whole seminar dedicated to this and a discussion and an FDP that how do we protect what people create, not just products, but also what they create with their minds, which is what faculty and universities do. And how do you protect that so you can further stimulate more creation, which will be valuable to the society, and the person gets some returns on his creation. So I've sort of understood what this whole story is about. It's been a pleasure to even read up, and welcome all of you once again. And I look forward to coming in and listening in on some of the deliberations of the FDP. Thank you so much.
Okay, so that was really nice. Thank you, Colonel Gopal. At least it's a pleasure that you were not so much into it, still you made it to it, and you have apprised the audience of your views on IPR. So now moving on to the third leadership, I would request Dr. Suneet Tuli, who has been here at SNU since the last 2 years. And he is currently our Director of Research, Graduate Research, Faculty Development Affairs, and quite actively involved right now with me and another fellow person, Dr. Karthik, in the IPR committee. So over to you, Dr. Tuli, and I will ask you to take more time because you're into IPR directly. So just do not cut it short.
Well, I'm generally brief, but I think I have to fill the breach over here, so no problem. But let's make it constructive and something to discuss about. So good morning, everyone. It's really a pleasure, and I would ditto what Colonel Gopal said. Please try and put on your videos so that we can at least see each other. Don't worry about the bandwidth problem. You know, that's the first thing we should do in COVID times. Please switch on your videos. I know, yeah. Thank you so much, Vikash.
Please switch on your video.
So Vikash gets the first prize for logging on first. Yeah, please do that. I know we are generally quite introverted people, but as teachers, and now we are sitting as students listening, so we want to be anonymous. But you know, I think it breaks the ice, and especially under such times when we can't be face to face, it's good to be seeing. If you close your videos, you can expect as a teacher what you're going to face in your class, and all the students are going to be blank faces. So I think that's the first step to realize. Anyway, it's a choice, but I would again request people can switch on their videos if possible. It actually brings in I think, an issue of privacy also. I know many people say that it's invading our privacy, etc. But anyway, that's a second debate over here. IPR. So let me look at IPR from a long perspective. Started on the 90s when I was at IIT Delhi, still a young student faculty. And my boss was Professor A.B. Bhattacharya. And IIT Delhi was the first one to bring out an IPR policy in India. So my initial brush with IPR was when the first draft, remember those days there were hardly any computers, things were typewritten, and my boss, Professor Bhattacharya, had come back from abroad. I think Professor Sudhir Jain is there, he will also remember. And those were the days when you're trying to draft a first IPR policy in the country. So you can imagine what a void it was. Information was meager. What kind of policies we have in the country were not very well known. We all knew that there is something called patent. Patent was very, at least in the engineering sciences circle. But kya hota hai, iska kya hoga? I mean, it was just because it was not considered perhaps as on par with publications, so the academics were not too interested. It didn't really come into your appraisal also if you had a patent or not. So those were the times. I'm just trying to give you the background. Then the first policies came, and at least in the academic circles, IIT started to look at patent seriously. So let me, first articulate what is the big hitch. The big hitch in our circle is that we do not consider, I think we heard it before, Saraswati and Lakshmi together, right? Saraswati is something to be put on a pedestal, and we consider ourselves a little pure and knowledge for knowledge's sake and free and gurukuls, right? But we live in a world which by and large is materialistic, is somewhat capitalistic, and therefore that is where Lakshmi came in. And so though we have Saraswati Puja on the campus, but Lakshmi Puja is always at home. So you see this difference in the way we treat. But actually IPR is really the amalgamation of the two. And that is why to some extent we have not really done it in our country. So let me just elaborate a little on that. The whole purpose of a patent or intellectual property rights, of course, there's so many experts here, I'm not an expert. The idea is that you get value for your intellectual property. Just like Gopal said, he had his song. If you go back to even the songs, also there is a history of how the singers versus the lyricist and so on, and whose song is it and whose lyrics is it. That also has a long history. So essentially, man is trying to be creative. He creates knowledge in this process, and then he wants protection for it. This is how IPR evolved. In our context, the basic stumbling block, in my opinion, is our lack of connect with industry. See, it's industry which actually makes use of knowledge uh, uh, in a market economy or for the market. So if academia cannot connect with industry, one does not know the value of knowledge. You see, you may be very wonderful, knowledgeable, teach in a class, produce PhDs, but if you do not know the worth of what you are producing commercially, from a Lakshmi's point of view, you do not know what to do with it. And I think that's the bane. That's really the crux why IPR in India is not flourishing compared to the others. And I think maybe you can debate it at the end also, Vinita.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So when we look at IPR, though we have tried to put it, almost every participant here is a faculty teaching over here. Though we have put it in our appraisals, in our curriculum, you may do it. But I think what you must focus on is that patent means commercialization. And for commercialization, you need to know, the market, the industry. And this is what we are poor at. Until we do that in our universities, in our institutes, we really cannot hope to do it. Second thing which I found later when I became Dean at IIT Delhi for research, we actually, that first policy which I had made with my boss, we changed it. But one thing was there, that in these intervening years, about 15 years, there had been a change. That's what I want to focus on. When we revised the policy, there had been a marked change. It's not that things were the same. What was the change? The change was many of the younger faculty were aware. They had come from abroad. They were very curious. They wanted to know what policies, many people before joining, they wanted to know what is the policy. Can I make my own company? So this change which has come is again because of the youngsters, the younger faculty, knowing that commercialization or making use of their knowledge is an aspect which they take very seriously in life. People are started to ask, if I want to go for industry for a year, will you permit me? So this was a very big change which came about, and we have to do that. Second thing was that students, the PhD, especially the PhDs, started taking, both the universities or IIT and the students started taking it seriously, that can some of the work which they are going to publish or patent, publish, can it be patented? So this thinking that one must check that whether it can be patented before or copyrighted before it is published came into view, because publishing was really the bloodline of academics. But this thinking changed. These are the two major changes which I think have come over here. Of course, we have tried to put it down the line into a master student, bachelor students, staff, everyone. So awareness has increased a lot, but still a lot to be done. But I think where we still lack is the industry connect. So it is coming through the faculty. So let me just say another thing on this aspect. See, as teachers, if we ourselves have not experienced something, it becomes very difficult to teach a student. Otherwise, it's bookish knowledge. So I would also, encourage you to go and see how things are patented. Look at a patent search. Of course, we'll do all those things. But as I said, the awareness has increased. Coming back to two particular things which we have done at SNU, of course, there is a standard IPR committee, and Vinita is the convener, chairperson, will be starting. We invited many of you who are present over here to be on our board. We also have a Atal Incubation Center, one of the few in the private domain, which can actually look at the startups which spin off from over here. That's one. Vivek mentioned, of course, there's a department. More importantly, recently you may have heard in the news, we have started an SNU, the Salt Center. It's called the SDC. The idea on SDC is a very big bet which we have made. And this is exactly, we feel that by connecting with industry, we'll be actually bringing out many more products, patents, copyrights, design, and so on. That's a very big bet. And we plan to put something which an industry like the Dassault system, which produces everything to a Rafale jet, can actually, so that's what industry is using right now. We can put part of it into the curriculum, but more importantly, it's the culture, how industry thinks and talks, the jargon they use, and how an academic can bring value as a think tank to that. So it's a meeting of both minds. Both of us have to learn from each other. But this is something which I feel can make a change, which you start addressing. So the Salt Center is one which has just started. It was inaugurated just, I think, last Saturday, exactly a week back, it was done. That's one, and I would encourage people to interact. It's free for all of us. I mean, academics, there's no bar. Please feel free. Projects. So essentially, it focuses, of course, on the design aspect. It's called the 3D design experience. So you are looking at a product from a 3D perspective, not just literally 3D, but what is behind, future. How will you design it in a way that a design experience is very different than simply designing for, let's say, a product or aesthetics, etc. Then, of course, there is the innovation part. You can try out many things. You can model things which you want. You can connect through different domains. So if you look at, let's say, a plane or even a city is made up of so many domains, right? There's a transport system, there's an electrical system, there's a sewage system, civil, everything you can think of. There's an IT hub over here, how it is connected, drones may be coming. So all these things, how can you model it all together in an integrated manner? You can do these, and that tremendously increases the scope of what you are going to make. You're not confined simply to your little domain, but you're actually looking at the complete picture, a complete system. And to my mind, that again is the second point, that you need to look at the complete picture when you live in a world as a teacher or society. One more, so roughly SNU has filed about 20 patents as of now. It's almost exactly 20 good patents filed. 3 of them are for abroad, and fairly good. But again, coming back over, of course, there'll be many experts. I feel that it's the patents which you bring out in a group. Lone patents are fine, but if you really want to go out commercial, it's the bunching of patent which actually helps you go deep into it. So perhaps a little more about that we can talk about. The last thing which I came across, especially during COVID times, we are also happy about talking about COVID, and it came about when we had our last faculty meeting, faculty program, FDP, and that issue was, what should I say, that during COVID times, what is the copyright on the use of instructional material in online courses? So, because when you start creating content which is online, you are going to use many third-party materials, which are, everything has that copyright logo over here. So what is the extent as a teacher when I'm teaching online, can I use these materials? Right? How do you evaluate its copyright? And I find many of us do not know the answer. I don't know, Vinita, whether there's a session on this. Maybe I should have talked about it earlier while you were devising the course.
Sir, copyright, we have a proper session.
Okay, great. So if you can just address, because many of the teachers have no idea, and I wish you could record that session, and for other teachers also.
Yeah. All the sessions are getting recorded.
Wonderful. So we have to maximize our ability to use materials in online courses. Should we choose very few which do not have a copyright? Do we take things which are in the public domain? They have open access, and there's something called, I think, a Creative Commons, or use links. So these are things which I think we need answers to. We are sort of getting into the online teaching, but there's a lot of copyright involved there. There is something called a fair use policy, which not many of us understand. What is this fair use? What actually it means over here? Well, of course, taking permissions is always there. So I think this is the last aspect I would like to be covered. So Vinita, I think I've taken much more of my time than I normally do. So just quick points about commercialization, and this copywriting in online material over here, and use of connect with industry. I think these are the three things I would like to mention. Thank you so much. Really, I want to thank you, Vinita. Thank you for organizing it. I know you've taken a lot of pains. I hope it is the first of its kind.
And first of its kind, and we are with cross fingers that it goes on very smoothly. Thank you, Professor Tuli. That was an, excellent thought process on, you have detailed almost about very relevant aspects which we are looking forward to, mostly as an academician. So you talked about copyright thing. Yeah, there's a session for it, and we'll see that we address all the relevant issues which are required for our academicians. And regarding the next speaker, we have Dr. Karthik. Karthik, I can't see you. Karthik, are you there?
Yes, Vinita, yes.
Okay, Dr. Karthik. Right. I'll introduce Dr. Karthik. No, I can't see you, not even your name. Forget about the video, I can't see your name. Anyway, then now that you're there, I'll announce about you. He is, Dr. Karthik is he's an Associate Dean for Graduate Studies. And I think he has been associated with SNU since the past 7 years. If I'm correct, Karthik? 7 years?
Yeah.
And we share a class for undergraduate courses, that is Bio Regulations and IPR. So over to Dr. Karthik for his overview about this program and what he would expect out of it, or what he wants to share from the perspective of SNU. Over to you, Karthik.
Thanks, Vinita. I think Dr. Tuli has already.
Now we can see you.
Can you guys see me? Okay, I guess. Yeah. I think when somebody talks, their video comes up first, right?
Karthik, you have a nice house, or is it a virtual world?
Well, it's a virtual world. I try to be part of a virtual thing, right? Tool, right? So
Colonel Gopal and Colonel Tuli were perfectly right. Video should be on. I'm requesting the participants once again, if you can switch on your videos, it gives us a sense of coming together.
And with the virtual background, you don't have to worry about privacy issues.
Right.
Exactly.
And I assure that I do have a lot of gray hairs, which is not seen in the video. So
don't worry, it's not visible.
You don't have Karthik, you don't.
Right. So that's what I was mentioning. I think Dr. Tuli has mostly covered what I was going to say about IPR, and but I just wanted to like to join the SNU leadership here in welcoming all of you for this AICTE FTP. And some of the points means I think I'm the younger of a lot here, but then I think it's more than 10 years ago when I was in Boston, and we were having a seminar on IPR in that area. I think you'd be surprised that Boston, of course, with MIT, Harvard, and Boston University, the turfs and the concentration of the number of IPRs coming out of Boston is only matches only the Silicon Valley, right? And the seminar was on why do we need IPR and how it will affect the innovation, right? And you'd be surprised to know that I think many of the academic scientists were actually against patenting and IPR, or at least their thought process was that it will stifle innovation. And their point of view was to put everything in public domain and allow anybody, let them use it, right? Let the industry use it, let the common man use it, let you or me use it, and then that's how the innovation is driven. And that was the thought process. And that was 10 years ago, and I was really surprised that the hub of of innovation and patenting activity was actually coming out with this sort of mechanism or this sort of thought process. But then I think it's not a real world. That's what I was came across. Even there, that was the process which, so we are looking, that thought process is most of an idealistic world where everything's out there and nobody is out to make money. And as I think Dr. Bibek also mentioned and Dr. Tuli also mentioned, I think there are a lot of practices. I think you can't stop anybody from patenting, right? Even, and what stops somebody else from patenting my ideas, right? and there's no way of doing that. And then what happens is to that, then that patent is locked. So ideally, that's what was mentioned in there, that there is, in this practical world, what you have to do is you can easily open your patent, just patent it first and then open it to the world. That will be the best way of uh, providing your knowledge to the world, and then protecting it from unscrupulous activities or whatever which is still there. So that was the basic point which came across. But then the other aspect, which of course Dr. Tully has already mentioned, is the academic version of it, as in, why would you wait for a patent for an innovation get patented and for quite some time, when it can be published and it can be recorded in your CVs, right? I know this basic the workshop is for management of IPR, but then the outreach of such thing to the faculty members should also be discussed, in the sense that what a normal scientist like me, a microbiologist who has no idea about patenting, how can the management group like yours can give a brief or a simple outline or a workflow for them to understand how to go about it? So that's a brief process that comes out of this workshop. That will be a great thing, which I think, because I think currently the IPR process, the copywriting, uh, or whatever it is, it seems like a complicated process to a scientist like us who has no background on IPR, right? How do we go about it? Whom do we contact? Whether ours is patentable or not? So we need a structure, and then if there is a simple flow document which can inform us or inform the scientists as in what it can be done, so that would be an ideal thing to come out of a workshop like this, of course. And so that's what I was. That's why I preface my uh, talk by saying that basically I'm the youngest of the lot, but then I still have that thought process, as in, why would you block, if as a scientist the our calling is to actually create knowledge and then put it out to the world, why would you lock it down for any purpose? But I think that's a simplistic and idealistic view which doesn't which is not means currently it is not possible. But then I think we should think about it as a larger process, as such, as how do we protect ourselves from these kind of things as well. So I think thank Vinita and for actually putting together this whole FDP, the whole FDP presentation, and then inviting such a distinguished speakers to inform you of the IPR process. And I think over to you, Vinita. These are the things which I have at this point.
Okay, no problem. Thank you so much. Every word counts from all of you. And I hope the participants are taking all these views and they can mull over it later on, because it will always, the more you think, the more you will be participative. We, as colleagues, as a teacher, we are forever learners.
Right.
So now
one
that
aspect,
I think.
oh, sorry, I just one aspect is
you can
to
talk
actually.
about your regulations. Karthik, you can talk some bit about regulations. People might not be so much aware of it also. The regulations, bioethics.
Yeah, biomedical regulations is totally different, of course, from IPR policies and such, because that involves how to protect the health and health aspect of the consumers, right? Based on our pharmaceutical, whatever is coming up, what do we do? So that's an important process which is separated out of IPR or management in this sense. But one thing I just wanted to say is that one process which may come out, as Dr. Tully has mentioned, that India has taken a long time to catch up, right? That's primarily because I think the aspect of the how it is done has not reached to the masses. And how do we patent, and what is a patent, how do we protect it, and what can be done with that? So that communication, how do we outreach, so that should also be part of the management group. Means as a management professional who is in charge of IPR, that should also be part of your thought process as to how to reach variety of different people, including academics, including innovation scientists, or the innovators which innovations which happens in the villages or in the different cities or in the garages, right? So how do they, it's not only to the universities which should be left, it should be a total package where anybody and everybody can actually take a look and say, okay, this is how we do it. I have an innovation which I have created in my garage, in my home, and this is how I'm going to forward. So that way, the Atal Incubation Center in our universities or across, which was set up for precisely this reason, where anybody outside the university, they don't need to be part of an university structure or a college structure or an academic structure. Anybody can actually have an innovative idea who can come into the AIC unit and then start their process, right? So that's all. So that's the outreach aspect also should be discussed amongst how do you guys do it in the sense of IP management structure? How do we take it out to the masses? So that should also be a part of your discussion pattern. That's what I feel at this point.
Okay, fair enough. VC ma'am will join at 10:50. She has informed. So in between, I can use myself as a filler. So I will have. Sir, you want to say something, Tuli sir?
Or as just a general discussion, means how do we people feel, as in how it should be. That's what.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. If the participants feel, every year the level awareness goes up. So I just wanted to get a feel from the participants, their expectations, some specific queries they would like to be addressed. So I think if you can
sir, in this context, Tuli sir and the others I'm informing, I had taken a pre-FD brainstorming through Google Form. So can I share the results?
Perfect. That'll be great. Absolutely. Yeah,
I'll just share the results. I took it 2 days before.
Very good.
It may not be a bad idea to break the monotony of all the old people speaking to listen to some voices from your
Exactly.
So you could do that maybe.
Yeah, and then it also helps us in customizing the presentations as per the need of the participants. Just 1 minute, please bear with me.
Dr. Krishna, you could ask the participants if they have any views from what they've heard so far and anything about the...
Okay.
Sir, good morning, sir. If there is a chance to speak, can I go ahead?
Yes, please, Dr. Amaleshwari. Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Amaleshwari. I'm from Chennai. So this question is to Dr. Sunit Tuli. So you said that usage of online content material which is already copyrighted. Like, can you just throw some more light on that? Because we we normally know this blended classrooms. We are handling it from June month. So this, can you just tell us and how to patent our content also? No, say if I'm recording my class. Yes.
Okay, so I had actually raised the question. I'm not an expert, but let me rephrase it. See, when you make an online course, you use a lot of material because it's online, there's instructional material. And many of these are third party. They don't belong to you. You want to use a graph from somewhere, a figure from somewhere. So that material is copyrighted. It could be from a book or someone else's PPT, etc., or maybe a video from somewhere. Now, before using this copyrighted material, you have to evaluate the copyright status, and you have to determine whether it is legally usable or permissible. So that's the larger question. Now, a few things which we did a study and we could do, but again, no concrete answers. First of all, when you do such things, try to use material which have got few or no copyright restrictions. It's possible. Many people, and as Karthik also said, many scientists, many teachers would like not to copyright their material, and they are freely available. There's a huge bulk of this thing. So when you're making your courses, to try and use these few or no copyright or little restriction over here. Many things are what is called the public domain. So public domain is actually this big entity, and anything in the public domain without copyright, you can freely use it. Then there is something called an open access. I'm sure that all of you have heard of this word. Open access was formed with the idea that people and teachers and scientists don't want to copyright, don't want to publish and have, when you publish in a journal, it becomes the copyright of that journal. So people didn't want that, and even journals have started to acknowledge this. That's the open access. There is something also called a Creative Commons. If I remember, I'm not too sure. It's called Creative Commons. That also is open access. So not very well known, but if you go to Creative Commons, it's an open access platform where you can creatively design with others, use others' material. So these are big sources of materials which you can do without any restriction on copyright. Other, of course, one good way is rather than put it in your thing, just give the link. So when you're using it, just give the link to that, and that way you're not violating, because the person, he has already put it on some site, and you're merely giving the link. So that's another way you can get over this copyright. Then another complex issue, if I remember, is what is called a fair use policy. This, I think, evolved because exactly of this discussion we are having. What it does is, even publishers and copyrighted people said that I can give you limited use of the copyrighted material without taking permission from the right holders. But since it is so nebulous, it cannot be very accurately defined. So right now, fair use is a kind of a flexible right that allows portions of any copyrighted material to be used. But as I said, its analysis is very highly subjective. But again, this is something which you could do over exactly. So this is it. Again, I'm not an expert, Dr. Amleshwari, but I'm figuring that some of the people over here could give us more gyan on it, because it's very important now and it's likely to last. We are also going to go for...
Yes, sir. Because of this pandemic and this blended learning methods, very small institutions suffer a lot, because I can see the more pressure on the teachers and to handle the sessions online. Thank you very much, sir. That was a very fitting answer. Thank you, Dr. Vanita, for organizing this event. Thank you, Dr. Gopal, Dr. Karthik. Yes, sir.
Sure.
No, I sort of joined little late. No. Go ahead.
Oh, ma'am is already here.
Just joined in. Yeah, just wanted to say.
Welcome, ma'am.
See, right now in COVID times, everyone is very altruistic and fine. But after a year or so, people are going to get back and say, you can't use my material, you'll have legal. So right now, everything is fine. So we have to be prepared. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, that's really heartening. Professor Ghosh, our VC, has just joined. She was quite busy since morning. Let us welcome her. And ma'am, please share your thoughts. We would love to hear.
Well, they're experts in this. I am a field person. I am not in theoretically knowing any of this. Everything I learned the hard way, trying to do it myself and then getting stuck and then learning it. And that learning sort of stays with you. So I was actually, Indian Association for Physics Teachers was doing their 8th convention. And so I was the chief guest, believe me or not. And somebody who I looked upon always as my guru from a distance, Ajay Ghatak, introduced me. So it is, yeah, it is quite nice. There also we are talking about it. And I think more and more, so I could not join you, Vinita, because this is AICT sponsored something that you took the plunge in organizing. So I start by thanking you really for doing it. I think SNU is probably an ideal place that this will, because of many reasons. And as the Vice Chancellor, I feel privileged to be associated with this institution, which is only 9-year-old. The unfortunate part, of course, is that I cannot invite you to the campus to show off. So I have a picture behind me for the academic buildings, but the campus is much more than what you see behind me. A beautiful campus, a lot of labs, working in labs, meaning in full sense of the thing, doesn't mean just wet labs, but labs working on cutting edge research. And faculty members are normally not very good at management of IP. Karthik is sitting there, he's been here for quite some time, and he would agree that they make a mess of it. And because technology development is not something we are very good at as teachers and researchers. So I think the last mile is where we fail. And so when Vinita joined, and I can give out a couple of secrets, when I interviewed her, she was working on her thesis after a long time. And this was the Indian IP scenario was her data. And so we had some, I'm always asking questions, so because I don't know the answers, I just know the questions I have in my mind. And it all started, the journey started right there. We need to brainstorm on it. One part of, being young and new, and that's what I want to do, put maybe one point across to all of you, has the advantage that you learn from other people's mistakes. You don't have to repeat them to learn. What am I talking about? The legal system, when it becomes very powerful, you have an example in the United States of America. Okay, I was there for 6 years, but it becomes a little stifling, be it medical, be it IP. Everything, if you are looking at that, people would stop doing the regular things that we do as researchers. So I think this forum is so important, I can tell you, because you would be teaching us about balancing the two sides, right? How to do the free thinking research that we all do, right? I have some result before I knew, before I even confirm, I share it with my friends. We talk about it over coffee. We say, okay, do you believe in this result? Do you think I'm seeing something? And it's public, it's understood that you would maintain my confidentiality. That even when we are discussing, our conferences used to be half-cooked results, right? I've talked about the same big experiment that I did over 3 years in 3 different conferences at different stages. This is what we got, and people even videotaped my lecture, but there was a code, and I think we flourished, at least in some parts, because of this freedom, this free way of exchanging information, so and so forth. Where comes now, particularly when you want to take it to the technology level and you have a contract, some understanding that you have to take it to societal good. So that's what translational part comes in, that it's not good enough to sit in your ivory towers and do your research, figure out how it can be global, not just global ideas, but local good as well. And for that, when you partner, there's some agreements, there's some codes that you need to actually write down on stone. And I think this is where I see a bit of conflict that comes sometimes. We want to, in a hurry, we wish to do it. People publish it after publishing without patenting because the processes are cumbersome. Even after you got a patent, or without a patent, you have publicized now. I don't have those slides ready for you today, Vinita, but I've talked about quite a bit. Many of our research items have even caught the attention of the media. You find SNU researchers in the news quite often, particularly of late, thanks to our very active media team. And they actually hound me for news, and I'm very happy to share those. After that, when an interested industry contacts our faculty, we often are at a loss because we don't know that last mile. How exactly do you monetize? Because sustainability, this is the other point I want to make, the last third point, that sustainability of research is something that we are talking about, right? You do one CRISPR, this is also the Nobel Prize time. So you patent your CRISPR, I need only one CRISPR in SNU, then SNU would be safe for 100 years. You need to make that kind of money out of this, right? So the point is that, but it doesn't happen every the time. So this free thinking in research and scientific and other communities, and the codes that you need to have for protection of your rights, the transition from pure research to inventions to innovation. I make a distinction. We are very familiar with inventions. We are not at all good at innovation. Innovation is not always a new thing, right? It could be an incremental technical spec, improvement that can get you an innovation. And we do not know how to take that technology to the market. And what are the do's and don'ts? And so I think it would be really, really useful to have this conference, this workshop mode, and this should not be the last one, Vinita, because I think
definitely.
Yes,
we are going to start on a regular basis.
Yes, and I think what we should do is having this brainstorming is one. I would like to see results. We should be a little bit of result oriented. Where exactly do we apply this? How it can enrich this? There's a complex Sunit was mentioning when I just walked in. He was mentioning how in this digital world, sharing and all that, again, we do very freely without realizing. And Karthik keeps on telling us what YouTube videos we can use in our classes and whether we can actually share it out in the open. So there are Some things courts know. I think intellectual property should be respected. No doubt about it. We also need it because sustainability of our research depends on funding of a particular kind. And I think it should not go in the commercial sense, but for societal good, the money should come back to research. And research is often extremely fundamental. And you do not think of the immediate marketable value of it. 20 years later, it becomes a big shot. Now, these days, of course, the time between a fundamental idea and its application has shrunk. This shrinking started happening with IT, information technology, because there is no gap then. Biotechnology showed a bit of way, but it has slowed down again. But this time essentially means that it's a good gamble. How you do fundamental research is a good gambling, that is a calculated gambling of investment of a particular kind, and that leads to applications. And I think we need a lot of work done in the university sector for our tie-ups with industry. In this country, you get always blamed, academia gets blamed for not having industry this thing. I blame the other side. I keep saying that the industry people are not ready to do original R&D. They're always importing technology, right? So I think, and not developing, with a very few exceptions. So if I want to give training to even my undergraduates, all of them, I don't have 2,000 internship available in the country. Our bright students get bored because they get desk jobs, and that's not internship at all. So I think there's a lot that comes out, but what I'm talking about is if we show this IP management success, that success would lead to creation of this culture. Right now, it's all restricted to a few who does, and there is some that even ISC does, IIT Madras does, IIT Bombay has a huge revenue now. But then you show the way. Otherwise, all this talk, it stays in that theoretical level. So I really wish to thank Vinita for taking the pain, and for everybody for being here with us today. When Gopal allows us to visit the campus, I invite you to visit the campus. And Corona is not here forever. I'm sure the physical campus, the way we have built, will come back. We'll make the best of face-to-face and the best of technology. And in that, I welcome you to that challenge. Every crisis, has some parts that are negative, we have no control over. We should focus on the positive part, which are the challenges which leads to many opportunities. So this brainstorming with this level of participation, Vinita, has been possible because it's online. If you had done it physically, I'm sure they would drop out. I am this, I can't travel, this, that. But online has some merit, and we celebrate all of it and take it forward. All the best with the deliberations, and I'll be interested in knowing the output. And sorry for being late, but thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, before you leave, I'll just like to mention there are two possible outcomes we are looking forward to, and we expect to get out of it. One thing is, a lot of faculties have expressed the desire in forming the course curriculum on IP. So we will be helping them out with that. And there are sessions on, as you said, managing their IP. So there'll be sessions on designing framework, structuring your IP management system. So we'll see how it goes about, but definitely you are right. We should keep in the outcome, tangible outcome out of any session.
Right. Thank you so much. The major problem is also the delay. You file a patent. How long does it take? It used to take 5 to 6 years. Now it takes 3 to 4 years. And I think maybe someday you become so powerful, you start influencing the policymakers. That's what the challenge I'll throw at you. Anyway, thanks a lot. Thanks anyway. All the best.
And thank you so much for your enlightening thoughts and for being able to make to it despite your busy schedule. So that's wonderful. We have all the members as expected. I'm really blessed, I should say. And I hope all the participants also heard them and listened to such useful insights. So it's almost 11 o'clock. So after this, I'll just have a short session, an overview, sort of giving you tips as to how to go about in the next lectures, briefing you about the assessment process, where you will get your study materials, and how to be in touch on the WhatsApp group. And then a little bit about what we are doing in the management department, what courses are being taught in IP, if that might help you in designing your courses. So maybe I'll just share my slide, or we take 5 minutes breather. What do you say, participants? Should we take 5 minutes?
Yeah,
or should
that
we
would be
continue?
great.
So you just take 5 minutes breather, and
Yes,
then I just join back for 10-15 minutes, and then you have a long break of 30 minutes. Fine. Thank you, Kanal Gopal. Thank you, Tuli sir, and thank you, Kartik.